Get your groove on Friday now. Watching Howie Mandel.
That's Sonny in the Black Pack. This
4%.
is my daughter, Jackie.
Jackie, nice to see you.
Nice
I
to
just
see you.
wanted you to know this is my daughter.
Yes,
this is my
I knew.
co-host.
I researched it.
I'm not sitting here with a young woman.
Somebody who's underage.
Yeah, I know. But sitting here with somebody
Don't
much
make me
younger
pull
than
the
me.
chat logs.
Okay.
It says here that
Oh, no. I see you.
Zowie Wowie 69.
You're being even nicer. The beauty of this, and I will say this, and we'll give everybody the links, but you have your own network now,
I
True
do,
Blue.
True Blue, which is fantastic. So for a guy at my stage of the game to have your own network, it's a dream come true.
Right. You're like a white male Oprah. Right? But you have your own network, True Blue, where I was a huge fan and continue to be a huge fan of To Catch a Predator. But you have amped it up and made it even better on a show called Takedown.
Takedown, exactly.
Takedown with Chris Hansen.
Now we have new music for Takedown now.
Takedown with Chris Hansen.
Every
love it.
time
I
we
love it.
say that, there's
Yeah.
going to be a sting.
I think that's great.
Sonny in the Black Pack. Okay, so but you and what I found amazing is that and there are no you don't hold back. So I
Yeah.
always wondered. I remember watching the show and thinking, well, first of all, a couple things. I think what you do is amazing.
Well, thank you.
And
I have a great team.
Yes, you do. I don't know. You maybe
I do.
You okay? Are they listening? Is that why you're saying
I
that?
hope so.
Yes. Okay. And what I can't believe is what I see. First of all, it's the people that you take down.
Takedown with Chris Hansen.
You would think at this point they would know that they would.
It's amazing.
Isn't it?
It's amazing. So we've been doing a Predator investigative franchise for 20 years.
Right.
20 years.
Right.
Now, when we first did this, the
Right.
very first time
Yeah.
for NBC,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure anybody would show up then. And then after the second or third time, I'm thinking, who is going to possibly show up? They must know that we're out here. And yet, 20 years later, this year, these guys are still showing up from all walks of life. And I think, for these guys who have this proclivity, for some of them, it's like almost being a heroin addict. They need this. They need to fulfill this fantasy. And the heroin addict knows there's a 20% chance there's fentanyl in the heroin and they could die. The predator knows there's a 20% chance it's me or any law enforcement agency around the world, but they need this fix and they do it. I have guys walk in and say, "Oh, you're Chris Hansen," before I can say a word.
And
I said, "Yes, I am." And they somehow are able to compartmentalize, "Oh, it's cool. I'm going to Chris Hansen's Takedown show," with what they were actually going to do here. And then they start telling me the story about, "Oh, I was just here to check on the girl. I really wasn't going to do
I see
anything.
this.
I thought it was a fantasy."
But yet they're there. You say people walk in and go, "Oh, you're Chris Hansen." I'm fascinated where the people don't.
Oh, yeah. And
They
we've had a
don't.
fair amount of that, too.
I have a clip,
Sure.
which kind of made me. Nothing about this makes me laugh, but this makes me laugh. This is a clip where the guy doesn't
This is
recognize
classic,
you.
yeah.
This guy. Look at this guy. Watch this.
I'm Chris Hansen.
No, you're not.
Is I?
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. And this is a show,
Oh,
an
please,
investigation
no,
called
please.
Hansen versus
I love it. Okay, we stop.
Sir,
No, you're not.
This is Mike Manzi, right? He's
Okay.
a math tutor working for some of the most prominent families outside of New York City. And
Oh, he's a tutor.
he was a tutor back
For
then.
kids.
For kids. Kids the same age as the one he was coming there to see.
Is he paying you to plug his business?
I don't think so. I don't think he's doing much tutoring these days.
No.
I think he was working at a pet shop the last time I checked.
Really?
Yes.
What if he's not doing anything weird to puppies and stuff?
I hope not.
I hope not. So but he didn't not think it was you.
Yeah.
Even once you say it, I would think people would go, "Holy shit," and kind of understand it. Here's the other thing I don't understand. I don't understand why they don't leave, or they don't or maybe that's the way you're editing it. Is that the way you're editing
Some
it?
of them try to run out.
They do. Some do try to run. Jackie, you're exactly right. And the way it's structured now is if they do run, they're arrested. by the sheriff's office or the police department with which we're working.
Okay.
And if it all goes to plan, I will still get a chance to interview them after they're cuffed and arrested and after the situation is settled.
So I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
that. So somebody gets arrested. They sit there. He doesn't want to talk. This is the guy. I want to show the one where after he gets arrested, he doesn't want to talk. Now, he's not obligated to talk to you.
He doesn't have to talk. And that's where, I've got to earn my paycheck. I've got to, get in his head and hopefully get him to talk to me so I can understand what it was that led him to meet me in this situation.
So
Are they allowed to use anything he says to you in a court of law before
can.
his Miranda rights are read?
They can.
Okay.
And this has been upheld in appellate courts across the country.
Have you been? Let me show you this. This
Sure.
is after this guy came to meet two 15-year-old girls,
Correct.
right? And
And the backstory on this, which I'll tell you after we look at the clip, is crazy.
after the clip. But he said, I'm just playing the part. This is a guy denying even that he has a problem, and that's what I was showing. But what was amazing about this, I'm not showing the whole clip, but I'm showing the part where they've already arrested him. They've already told him that he's in trouble, that he is surrounded by cops, and then you sit down and go, but I want to talk to you and I want to find something out.
Exactly.
This is what you find out.
Do you think you have a problem with
No.
an attraction to teenage girls?
Not at all. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Then why even take the chance, Clay?
Because I'm lonely.
You're lonely.
So he said to you before that, I came in late on that cut, but he said to you, can I talk to you? He goes, I don't want to talk. I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to. And we all know that
Absolutely.
he's only shooting himself more in the foot by talking to you.
Well, yeah. And here's what happened here. There were two actual decoys online
Okay.
working for the sheriff's office in Grand Traverse County, chatting. So two different people posing as 15-year-old girls. And you're supposed to only have one of them talking to one potential predator. They get confused. So now he's talking to two different entities who he thinks are both 15-year-old girls. Now, a guy might get suspicion, say, oh, if there's two girls in the same hotel doing the same thing, this has got to be a setup. Thinking quickly, the decoys say, oh, no, she's my buddy. We're working together. And then he says, well, how much for the both of you? And they give him a price, and he is there in 8 minutes. Because he wants both girls.
No, he said he didn't. He
Well,
said he
I
doesn't have a problem.
have the chats.
I know, but he said he didn't.
And then if he's so lonely, he's so worried about being arrested because his family is coming up to visit him the next day.
His family.
His family coming up to visit from downstate.
And if I remember correctly, he has a girlfriend.
He had a girlfriend who was coming up as well.
Did she end up showing up?
I don't think so.
Did he go to jail?
He did, and his case is still pending.
Are you ever nervous about them getting mad at you and being violent towards you?
Oh, they get mad. And in the moment, I think so much is happening that it's hard for them to focus on being angry with me. Now, it's happened.
What has happened? What's been the most kind of harried moment for you personally?
I've had guys, bow up to me. Guys who are much more muscularly defined than I am.
Nobody's taking a swing?
Nobody's ever taken a swing.
I know this is a different show, but I think of Cheaters, which is catching someone in the act of doing something wrong, and that host was stabbed, correct? You never are nervous about them being so mad or being caught?
We have a lot of precautions in place. When we first started doing the predator investigations 20 years ago, we didn't work with law enforcement for the first two. We just did it because we weren't sure what we're going to find. We had security. But these guys were confronted and they would leave. Now, after the fact, law enforcement made some cases and successful prosecutions. But in the third investigation, it became very clear that we had to collaborate with law enforcement. It was the only socially responsible way to proceed. And quite honestly, as a producer of television content, it was unsatisfying for the viewers to see this guy just walk out the door and off into the sunset.
Well, we used to like seeing them walk out into the door and then be tackled.
Yes.
That was always the fun.
Usually by
little-
somebody in a ghillie suit.
Yes, that was the. And you're talking about
In Fort Myers, Florida, yeah.
The brush, the guy that was the hedge.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had a little extra Homeland Security money down there they had to use.
Go ahead.
Did you ever catch someone or an entity greater than just one predator? Did you ever come across like a trafficking?
network?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there might have been somebody who was hooked in with a group who took part in this. And a lot of these guys communicate with each other and they share ways to groom children. We had a guy in Ohio who admitted to me that he had hooked up with 2 other underage girls in different states. He had driven to Ohio from Illinois. And at the end of the interview, he talks about, this being okay because the girls said it was okay. And he gives me details about how they hooked up and what they did. And then a detective looks over and sees a necklace around his neck. It's got half of a charm on it. And he said, ask about that. And I said, thank you. And I asked about it. He said, it was given to him by one of his 15-year-old victims who was wearing the other half. Now, this guy is not just facing charges in Ohio. He's facing federal charges in these other cases in Michigan and in Indiana as well.
Do you have to show up in court ever?
I never have. And that surprises me just a little bit. I'm glad I've not had to do it. I don't want to spend all my time in court, but we provide our videos to law enforcement and by extension to any defense lawyer who wants to see them. They're turned over in discovery. The law enforcement agency with which we embed has the chats. So the actual chatters now are members of law enforcement, and that protects the chain of custody. When we first started, we had an online watchdog group called Perverted Justice. And that's how we started. We found out about Perverted Justice, and these volunteers posed as kids online, and when somebody would make a date to meet and they got their identity, they would just post this person's identity on their website. And that's when I wondered, well, if we could partner with them and wire a house with hidden cameras and microphones and use their ability to, be kids online, this could be powerful. And that's how it started.
That's amazing. Do you find, because the justice system is not perfect, I would imagine that there have been times when there's no question about these people that you ultimately confront are doing something incredibly wrong.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that the case is clean and closed and they're getting whatever they deserve. If they don't get what they deserve, even based on a technicality, are you open, or is the show open? I don't want to talk anybody or give somebody an idea, but are you not concerned that they can come after you and say, oh, you see, they couldn't prove it in court, I didn't really do it, and you've ruined my life?
Well, we are painstakingly transparent about our methodology. We show guys walking into a home, the commission of a felony, and to conduct themselves in this way in an area where they have no reasonable expectation for privacy, right? We're not going into his home and looking over his shoulder as he looks at naughty pictures on the internet. We are creating a real life situation, and if he acts and crosses the line and his chats constitute a felony, solicitation of a minor, he's done it already. And he walks into our space, right? He's got no reasonable expectation for privacy here. So it would be very difficult for any one of these guys to come back and say, well, this is entrapment. It's not entrapment. They tripped the wire several times on the way there. Now, as you mentioned, the criminal justice system is not perfect. And so some of these guys do walk away with probation and just having to register as a sex offender. In rare cases, there have been charges dismissed, but it's very rare. They face some sort of penalty almost routinely.
I was trying to look up, I couldn't find it, if you have grandkids. But does the line of work you do completely freak you out now for if you do have grandkids or just kids in general, that there's so much access now on the internet? on social media and their Facebook, Instagram, wherever they are? How do you
Before you answer that question, why wouldn't you do your research like before we sat down? Like, why wouldn't, if that's a question?
Because I have kids and I'm tired and I haven't had a chance.
He doesn't have a lot of time. And if
I'm
you didn't
sorry. Do you
know-
have grandkids?
I don't have grandkids yet. I have children
Okay.
Who have not had
But even
their
if
own
you
kids
don't
yet.
have grandkids,
No, but it's
it's-
something I think about all the time. And obviously I've got nieces and nephews and,
Yeah.
and you know, we're surrounded by kids. And you know, we've been doing this so long now that we're in the third generation of followers. I mean,
Right.
people who are in their 60s, you know, our age, know what I do. And kids who are 13, 14, 15 also know. You know, so it's crazy that we've now been doing this and we have traction in 3 different generations. So I'm hoping these kids see this not just as a form of dark entertainment, but as a cautionary tale to govern yourselves appropriately online. But yeah, it does freak me out. And, you know, look, this is not some activity that's in the dark web. I mean, we've covered cases where adults have exploited children they met on Instagram, on Facebook.
Roblox now, I'm hearing.
Roblox.
Yeah.
All kinds of games. You know, easily accessible social media platforms.
It just seems really different now, and really, and I don't know if you think it's more prevalent or we're just more aware, or because of media.
I think it's both. I mean, think about this. When we did the first investigation, we merely had decoys in chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo. And we used to work on that strange, antiquated platform called MySpace, if you remember that.
I do.
Yeah.
I think I'm older than you.
And that was not by much. And that was it. Well, now the number of social media platforms upon which an adult can approach a child has exploded exponentially. And there are new ones virtually every month, it seems. So in the beginning, it was easier to catch these guys because the activity was concentrated. Now it's diffuse. And these guys know this. So they could be on some community site looking for stepmother selling stepdaughter because they've seen this and fantasized about it on various porn sites. And we see tracking between, you know, viewing of inappropriate pornography or child pornography and offending. I mean, there's definitely a connection here.
So is there any movement toward the porn industry, and as far as taking some responsibility and saying, let's not do something that is illegal?
I don't think it's the porn industry. It's not the porn. It literally, they could find it anywhere. I'm seeing even on TikTok that put their little kids out there and they think it's harmless,
that's a real
right?
issue. And here's something very interesting is that we have done stories, for instance, on my YouTube channel or on our social media platforms, exposing the exploitation of children by their mom, for instance.
Right.
So I'll put that on YouTube as a cautionary tale. They won't monetize that piece, but they'll monetize the objectionable exploitation that we're exposing.
Yeah.
So go figure that out.
But, you know, do you think that it's the porn industry or the social media or the fact that we have, pictures of everybody's personal life is ubiquitous now? Because as I'm a grandfather, and we have to be cognizant, and she reminds me all the time because I think it's an adorable thing. We'll be out at the pool, and I take a picture of my granddaughter, and she'll say, "Don't post that." You know, and I'm talking about a 10-year-old. And they're saying, and you have to think, don't post that. And I wouldn't, but I don't remember when I was younger even thinking about
No. I mean, I remember as a kid, like being 13 years old, and I caddied at a local country club in suburban Detroit where I grew up. And the caddy master, big old Joe Anderson, great guy, would sit us all down at the beginning of the year and say, look, you know, I know a lot of you guys walk here, some guys hitchhike. I mean, this is the, early 70s. He said, if anybody ever picks you up hitchhiking and they put their hand on your knee or anything, you get out of that car and you get the license plate, you come tell me and I'll get the cops involved. And I remember thinking at the time as a kid, who would do that? I mean, why would any man put a hand on a young guy's knee? But credit to him for all those years ago, protecting his, but just, introducing the idea. You know, we have a huge documentary going now at True Blue because we don't just do the Predator, the Takedown series, we produce these documentaries for us and for other entities on sextortion. And there is a epidemic in our country where young men are being approached by scam artists in West Africa or Eastern Europe, and they pose as attractive young women. And they get them to send racy, sexually explicit pictures back. And then they extort money from them. And these kids get caught up in it. And they're good kids, 15, 16, 17 years old, good students, good athletes, bound for college. And they're so ashamed in the moment that their teenage brain can't think through this, and they commit suicide. And this has happened hundreds of times, if not thousands. And I have sat with at least 4 sets of parents and heartbreaking stories. And I tell this story because it's important for parents to get their kids' attention and say, look, we get you can make a mistake online. We get you can have a conversation with somebody you shouldn't be talking to. We get that you can send something inappropriate. But come tell me about it. And together we'll address this situation in a way that, will get you out of it.
I need to tell you that I talked to strangers on AIM Messenger when I was younger.
Did you really?
Yep.
Why?
At night, after you thought I went to sleep, I would sneak into Alex's room because he had a computer, and I would log on to AIM Messenger, and I would talk to strangers in chat rooms.
What do I do about that?
I think she should be grounded.
Under my screen name,
What
Malababe24.
Malababe?
I was
Malababe24. Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah.
That's my point. I mean, kids don't know, but that goes to the point. Kids don't understand the real danger here.
I know they don't understand the real danger, but the real horror for me right now is that my daughter made Chris Hansen say, "That's the point I'm trying to make." That's killing me. Mm-hmm. Were they inappropriate?
Yeah, I met some guy named Gary.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember anything about Gary?
Oh.
We should
Gary
probably track
wanted
him
me
down.
to come meet him.
Yeah, I bet he did.
And?
I didn't meet him.
Thank God.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
That's terrible. So when is this special?
And I'm 40, so that was like a long time
Right.
ago. This has been happening forever.
And all I'm ever concerned about, and every parent and every human is concerned about the safety of their loved ones. That's why I think, I would imagine there's ad nauseum amount of people out there who have seen and watch your show and say, because of your show, I have made my daughter or my son a little more cautious than they probably would have been. I bet you've saved lives.
I like to think so. And I'll tell you this, Howie. Almost every time my wife and I are out someplace having dinner, or I'm out someplace, somebody will come up to us and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And oftentimes what they want to say is that something, untoward happened to me. And I was afraid to speak out, or I did, and there was justice or no justice. But you going after these guys and holding them accountable was a victory for me, because it made me feel that somebody was out there seeking justice, trying to hold these guys accountable, guys who are similar to the ones who did something to me.
I have a solution. You should just play like the Ed Kemper story for your child and see what could possibly happen.
Well, that's different.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Ed Kemper is a mass murderer.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Do not play that to your 10-year-old.
That's totally different, and we have to be afraid. There is so much danger out there. But what fascinates me is how prevalent you are and what you do and your face, and how many times. I mean, I think I remember a couple of episodes where you caught the same guy. Wasn't there a teacher, a rabbi, or something that came back?
The rabbi was only caught once.
Okay.
And he went to federal prison for 6 years or so.
What a mensch.
But yeah, exactly. And he's been back in in prison a couple times for violating parole.
Really?
Yeah, and you'd think that this guy would, get his treatment, get his life together, and move on. But he's been in and out of trouble over the years several times.
And it's not, when you think of a predator and you think of somebody who maybe has this problem, in our minds we have an image. I'm also fascinated by who it is and how they look, and that's something to be cognizant of. It's not the scary person. It's
No,
not.
and you talk about grandkids. In a recent sting that we did down in Polk County, Florida, one of the guys who showed up, and this is with Hurricane Milton bearing down on us, right? We actually had to cut the sting short. And even with that, one of the guys who showed up was a Disney World Resort lifeguard.
Oh my God.
So what is he doing all day at the pool? He's watching your kids. And then he shows up. This guy's got a fiance. He's got a supportive family.
Wow.
And he's there.
It's a small world
In
after
that
all.
shortened sting, exactly. We had that guy. We had an illegal immigrant, who was in this country illegally, who, with the hurricane bearing down, sent his wife and child, his own daughter, to North Carolina to be safe. And he decided he was going to go meet this girl before he went to work as an electrician. And we had a guy who had been busted on a similar sting in Bloomington, Minnesota, who was out on bail in Florida as a photographer at a trade show, a videographer, who comes over to meet another teenage boy. He's out on bail, Howie.
I heard, maybe it's not true, that the highest concentration of sexual predators are in Orlando.
Oh, Disney World?
Well,
Around Disney
or
and
around
theme
all the
parks.
amusement parks?
That might not be true, but
Is that true? She didn't do any research. She
No,
wants to do it now.
someone told me.
well, I think, you can look anywhere and find registered sex offenders. I mean, it'll blow your mind.
Well, you've registered pretty much 80% of them. Do you not get depressed?
I don't, because I think the work, first of all, we do a lot of other stories as well. I mean, granted, it's all in the crime space, and it tends to be dark-ish, at least. But, I think we're creating content that's important for people to see. I think we're somewhat of a deterrence. I mean,
I hope so.
I hope so. I mean, I know guys keep showing up, so that sort of cuts against, the theory. But at least I'm getting people to talk about it. And if you can create a dialogue and awareness that didn't exist before, then you're winning. And a lot of these guys are facing justice. The vast majority. I mean, the conviction rate's 97, 96%.
Well, you have an abundance of evidence.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of it. Now, the question is, depending on which jurisdiction you're in, if, we had a doctor a year ago show up in Michigan all day at his practice, family practice, sees 18 patients, and finds time in the middle to chat up a 15-year-old girl, send a picture of his privates, and come over in his Range Rover, nicely dressed, with red wine, Oreo cookies that he wanted to get caught in her braces, walks in, pats her from behind, and he's ready to go. A doctor. While he sees 18 patients, sets all this up and shows up. Now, this guy had never been caught doing anything illegal before, and he was able to negotiate a plea deal that got him probation. And,
No.
Yeah. And
No, he's
registration as a
out.
sex offender. Yeah, he never, except for the 4 days he spent after his arrest in the county jail, he didn't have to go to prison. Now,
That's crazy.
yeah, it is, and it doesn't sit well with a lot of people.
Doesn't sit well with me.
But he had to register. He had to do all the treatment, and he had never been caught. There was no evidence of him having child pornography or ever doing this in the past. I'm not defending him by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but can I just say, there has been studies that I have read that
Yeah.
says that proclivity is not, you can't cure it.
I
So-
think, here's what I think, and I've looked hundreds of these guys in the face and had conversations with them. I think for some men, no, it can't be. They have to be locked up forever. I think for younger guys who are socially inept, who think this is a Romeo and Juliet situation, I think if there's early intervention with the proper sort of therapy and counseling, I think you can get a guy who will never reoffend.
How do you feel about castration?
I don't know if that works scientifically. I mean, physically, I understand how that would work. There's been a push for it in a number of states.
Cookies in her braces?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sonny has
Want-
lit the light again.
Do you want an answer on the highest concentration of sex offenders?
Yes, and then Sonny, you'll ask your question.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So Orlando actually slipped down to number 2 this
Number
year.
two.
Who's number
Okay.
one?
What's number one?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Why?
There's
That's
one
interesting.
sex offender for every 107 residents. And then Orlando is number 2.
I think it
for
says that
one
on their
sex
license
offender
plates.
for every 143 residents.
The Ocean State and home to the largest concentration of sex offenders.
Yeah, so they just slipped to number 2, but I was right.
They're still in the race.
The
Sonny.
more you know.
I was just wondering, you've been able to meet a lot of these predators in person, and quite a few of them, more than I think most people. Did you find a consistency across these people, like in their behavior?
Yeah, they like kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, besides that one.
Well, I think what you see, Sonny, and it's a great point, is that these guys like to blame everybody but themselves.
Nice. Okay.
You know, she wanted me to come over. She invited me. She said it was okay. What would happen here? Well, if she said yes, I might have done something. She can't say yes. She's 14 years old.
I love that I'm amazed that they answer the amount of questions that they ask, that you ask. And you're asking incredibly embarrassing, in my mind, embarrassing questions that, if nothing else, just deny at this point. You know, we got you, but just deny. They see cameramen, they see you, they see other people. You know which guy I'm talking about? When he's asking, you got into details about how much he was going to pay for this guy. It kind of, I don't understand the psyche of these people here. He asks them about something specific.
You talked about a price for oral sex, Wesley. How much were you going to pay for oral sex today?
I don't know. She was saying 40,
40.
30 and all that.
Did you bring money?
In the truck,
Yeah, you brought money in the truck.
but it's in the visor.
Yeah, okay.
Ain't with me.
It's not with me.
It's in the truck.
Yeah, it's
not
in
in
the
my
truck.
pocket.
That same Sting, the guy who came in before Wesley, had been a police officer in Michigan and Florida for years.
Not Delaware.
Not Delaware. And he tripped himself up and admitted the age. I said, well, we saw you coming. He said, well, I didn't realize she was 15 until I stopped to get her pop at the grocery store. So he just admits it.
Right.
You know, so now you know that he knew and saw it, you know, because the other thing these guys try to say is, well, I never saw the age in the thing, and she's supposed to be 19 to be in that particular platform anyway. Well, no, kids lie about their age all the time.
But I'm noticing...
And it's very clear. You know, the decoy's got to be very clear, because if that age isn't confirmed and acknowledged, and if the alleged predator doesn't bring up the subject of sex, that guy doesn't get the invite over.
What if does the predator always have to bring up the sex first, or because I think some of them feel like they've been trapped, so maybe.
Well, why are you continuing a discussion with somebody who says they're 15? Why not just shut it down?
But what I'm saying is they don't talk about sex first,
Right.
and then you're having that conversation, and then reveal the age. Is what I'm saying.
Sometimes that happens.
Right. So then you can say, hey, listen, I was talking about sex and I said all those things, and then she or he said his age.
Right. And then they shouldn't come over. They should say, I'm done. And some guys do this, right? Some guys say, nope, not going to do it. Some guys say hi to Chris Hansen, say hi to Sheriff, Chris Swanson, say hi to Sheriff Grady Judd. We had a guy in the chat room on a recent investigation in Polk County, Florida. Grady Judd's the sheriff there. I've known him for 40 years.
Florida number 2.
Yeah, Florida number 2. And in the chat, the guy says, well, I just feel like this is a Chris Hansen thing or a Grady Judd thing. Who's that? I don't know who that is, blah, blah, blah. The next night, here he is. And the sheriff happens to be in the Sting house at the time. So they're bringing the guy in. The guy tried to run. They got him in cuffs. They're bringing him back in. And the camera's rolling because I'm talking to the sheriff, and we're getting ready to shoot the guy coming back in. And without missing a beat, Grady Judd turns and says, welcome to Polk County, Florida, son.
The idea that that it's just the number is what kills me.
Yep.
The number is what I'm finding incredibly depressing. And the amount of there's no shortage. You could set up any given day and get multiple people. And I know we've talked about this and we've mentioned it before, but it's just killing me that so many people. I have no I can't fathom even finding somebody who is a child, attractive in that way.
No, and most normal human beings are that way. But apparently, and this isn't anecdotal because we've been doing it for 20 years, there's enough of this out there where guys consistently, in all parts of the country, big cities, small towns, will engage in this.
And that was my next question. What about women?
That's what I was going to ask.
Oh, you were gonna ask
that's interesting.
Let her ask.
No,
Go ahead.
I was going to ask how often it's women predators.
We have never seen a woman in one of our sting operations.
Never.
Just because they're
Never.
smarter.
Well, the therapists,
They don't get caught.
the shrinks who study this say it's because when it comes to female predators, you're more likely to see the teacher-student scenario. The female predator doesn't like the anonymity that's involved in our sting, where the male predator gets off on it. So we have seen more than ever before in my journalistic lifetime, teachers, female teachers, getting involved with young male students.
Like the Laterna, what's her name?
Yeah, Mary Kay Laterna.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this almost on a monthly basis in one part of the country. We did a story for True Blue, within the last year. There was a teacher down in Tennessee, the wife of a sheriff's deputy, who gets pregnant from a student who she's had over the house, a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. And this case has exploded in this small Tennessee town, tearing it apart. Because this woman had to have this affair with this child. And it's been happening all around the country. We're working on a documentary about it because I've never seen so many cases ever in my life.
Kyle here, who does our audio, does an impression of you.
Is that right?
Oh. Like me?
Let's hear it, Kyle.
My narcissistic daughter.
I don't know if I'm that good at it.
Well, let's give it a try.
Okay, go ahead.
I can be the judge.
Why don't you take a seat? Just take a seat right here.
Pretty good.
Go ahead, sit down.
You could have voiced over the South Park episode.
That was really good,
He's
Kyle.
been doing that all day.
Yeah.
I do have a real question.
Oh,
Yes,
go ahead.
Okay.
What do you think about like the streamers who do like the copycat stuff and meet the guys in public and confront them?
That's a very good question, and it's a very important topic. There are a lot of vigilante online people who, will bait these guys, get them out in public and shoot them with a smoke cannon or embarrass them or, or physically abuse them. And the problem with that is, first of all, the motive, which is usually for clicks and profit. And I understand that we get paid to do a show too. But our cases are prosecuted. Most of these cases can't be prosecuted because they're so messy. There's no chain of evidence. They expose the guy. They put him on their YouTube channel. The police can't then get a warrant to get their electronic devices, their computers or their phones. They can't retrieve any evidence.
But yours are also exposed.
But you do
Mine
it.
are exposed too, but we get prosecutions out of them.
You do it the right way. You
Before
work
it
with
airs?
law enforcement to make sure that you're doing it the
Right.
correct way.
That's what
right?
I'm saying.
Yeah.
What we do is totally different than what these vigilante guys do. Procedurally.
And you are, I would imagine, part of your team is a legal oversight, kind of, to tell you.
Standards, legal. I mean, we know how to operate in this situation, so we don't muck up a case.
Has anybody ever shown up and it's not what you think, or it was wrong, or it
I can't think of a time when we've, had a case of mistaken identity. Because we know, and, you get the IP address, they do the background, we can check sometimes through the phone numbers, et cetera. We've never had the pizza guy show up randomly or show up at the wrong place and have him get tossed. We know who's coming.
Speaking of the pizza, I remember
Right.
the one guy that you were.
Oh, Jeff Sokol, yeah.
You remember names?
Yeah, it's shocking.
How many people have you confronted?
Better than 600.
And you remember Jeff Sokol?
I remember that because it's the most outrageous, arrogant predator. Arguably.
Can I get another piece of pizza?
Yeah. Can I get another piece? Do you want some? No, I don't want it.
He was eating.
Yeah.
He was having a pizza party.
He was the most arrogant guy. And that's why it sticks with me. This guy, after he was convicted, after he went to prison, went to court to petition a name change. He wanted to change his name because he was so infamous online. The judge not only denied the request to change his name because he wanted people to know who the hell he was.
Let me guess. He forced them to change it to Jared.
No.
No.
Yeah, Subway. But he refused to seal the court hearing because he wanted people to know that this guy tried to change his name and he wouldn't let him change the name.
When you say they went to jail and it's prosecuted, what do you get for that?
You can get anywhere. We've seen, depending on the guy's background, right? If he's got a criminal history, I've seen him get up to 20, 30 years.
But a lot of these people are first time.
A lot of their
first time getting caught.
It depends where. So, 2 years.
It seems like
2 to 4.
It
is
seems like
nothing. And some guys don't even go. Some guys get probation. If you're in a jurisdiction where they've got murder cases backed up for a year, they're going to plead these things through. If you've got a better staffed prosecutor's office, you're more likely to see an aggressive prosecution.
I just, that kind of pains me, the fact
Yeah.
that it's only 2 years or something. I mean, these people are dangerous and they're ruining people's lives. And,
Yeah.
And
as I always say to these guys, okay, what do you think would have happened had there been a 14-year-old girl here and had we not been there? I know what would happen.
except for Mr. Manzi said that he was there to check out the place. He
Right.
was trying to convince you.
He was just there to smoke some weed.
To blaze, as he
Blaze,
said.
yeah.
He said he was going to blaze, but he also said that he was there just to make sure to show her that
Yeah.
you should not
Yeah.
be dealing with somebody online. He was a.
I'm going to scare you straight.
Yeah, he's a superhero.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
In your mind, what is the most? Is there one that sticks out the most, or the most bizarre, or the most dangerous, or the most like something with 600?
Yeah.
I would imagine you have a plethora of great
Well,
stories.
it's about a 100-way tie for first. But we did have a guy years ago in Fort Myers on a Sunday afternoon.
You realize
Florida.
a lot of these are
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, there you go. I know. To your point, Jackie.
But you haven't said one Delaware case.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want to hear one Delaware
Okay,
case.
What happened
we
this
should do
year
the
in
same.
Delaware?
Exactly. This guy shows up, and he pulls up in front of the house. He's in an SUV, and he gets out, and he opens the rear door of the vehicle. And we think he's going to get, pizza, beer, whatever. He's there to meet a teenage boy. He gets his 4-year-old son out and leads him up the driveway by the hand. And everybody in the house is like, oh, it's the last guy on the last day of the sting. And I'm like, this son of a bitch. Who does this? And he walks all the way up, and I'm thinking, okay, how do we handle this, So he walks in with the kid. He wasn't going to involve the kid, I don't think, in a sex act. I think he was going to put the kid in another room with a video, and he was going to have sex with the teenage boy there. And I looked at him, I said, you know why you're here, and I know why you're here. And because your child is here, I'm not going to put you through all this. But you need to go now. And as he walks out, a female officer scoops up the child, and they take him into custody. He was babysitting the child that day, his child, because his wife was working. So she's at work on a Sunday, and he's supposed to be having dad and lad time with his 4-year-old son, and this is what he does. And it just took my breath away, as it did for everybody in that room.
You just did with that story. That's absolutely the depravity of human. Like, how low can we go?
Yeah.
It's just so scary out there to think that these people, and you brought up earlier, I have grandchildren now. She has 2 and my daughter has 1. It just seems like a scarier world, or maybe I'm just more aware or talking to people.
Well, I think it is scarier. I think we all need to be more aware. We need to have this conversation. And, you can send these guys away to prison. You can do these shows. But at the end of the day, your best defense is the relationship and the communication you have with your children and your grandchildren. And you're allowed to tell a scary story.
Yeah, but my grandchildren don't speak English. So, I don't know if you remember, but the first time
I do remember. I was going to bring this up.
Was for my child's safety. This kid right
Yeah.
here. And,
Me?
Yeah.
Did you know the story? So
No.
your dad and I met in Los Angeles in the American Airlines Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in there with one of my producers, and knowing your dad's, preference for hand pumping versus a handshake,
He just spooned me.
Yeah, exactly. And my producer, I'll never forget this, went in for the huge handshake. It's Howie Mandel. And I said, easy. And we had a nice chat. We're on the same flight going back to New York. And you remember what happened that day?
That day?
That day, they shut the airplane door. You and I were sitting across the aisle from each other, and Michael Jackson died that very day. And we found out about it because you and I were both on our laptops. And we looked at it and said, did you see this? And we were taking off as they announced Michael Jackson died.
Wow. People always say to Chris Hansen, where were you the day Michael Jackson died? And he goes, with Howie Mandel.
Yeah.
That's always, and I say with
child predators.
Oh, wow.
Bit
That's
ironic.
the circle of life.
Yeah, that's the circle of life right
Oh,
there.
my God. But
after that, you were moving to Connecticut. I was living in that area at the time, and your dad called to say, hey, is this a safe area for apartments? And I want my daughter to be safe and all that
and we
stuff.
put you, and she survived. Look,
Yeah.
because of you.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
There's another life you
I'm honored. I'm honored.
So you do, the good work continues for you. Also, I want to, assistant.
Oh, God.
Mail call.
Pass that over. I got a mail call, but what is that? Oh my gosh. It's from YouTube.
Oh, your plaque. What'd you get?
We just hit 100,000 on the
Oh,
channel.
that's great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
How many do you have on your channel?
I've got 400,000 on one, and I think the True Blue is almost at 200,000. Sean would know, but
Oh, we
it's
got
getting
100.
up there.
We have 100.
Well, you go now that you're there.
Yeah.
You're on a rocket.
Okay. That would be. It's not great.
It's good.
No, it's good. I thought it
But
was
it's only going to get better.
Thank you.
That's nice. You're so positive.
I am
He's
positive.
always positive.
I have to be positive.
Every
Look at what I do for a living.
as long as he's out of one of those houses, he's
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
We also have. Do you want a pair of underpants?
I'm good. Thanks.
You might be the first person that didn't accept a pair of free underwear.
Are there boxer shorts? Or?
Yeah.
Do you have a preference? It's
I
not
like
like
boxers.
we're not
He
shopping.
knows not to accept underwear from a stranger.
Yeah, exactly.
In his line
Are
of
they
work.
clean?
No, I'm. Yeah. So these people, man-made, they make underpants. They're 4 Canadian guys that make these amazing underwear.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I live in them.
Sure,
and on
I'll
them.
try a pair.
Well, not now.
Not
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
no.
don't try it now.
Yeah.
Medium, large,
Large, probably.
large. Is it you saying that because you're on the air right now? But feel them. Feel there's no chafing or.
They're very
great.
soft
They're very
fabric.
soft, man-made underpants.
That's great.
Right.
No PFAS or no chemicals. Oh, those are great.
No
well,
what?
Thank you very much.
There's PFAS underpants.
No, there's like is it PFAS? What's the chemical?
Yeah, that is.
Plastic? Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
PFAS.
Apparently, it can.
That's what you
Yeah.
want in your
I've been
underpants.
looking stuff up all.
Boxer brief. That's beautiful. Thank you.
It is. Well, thank you to Man-Made. They did
Thank
that.
you, Man-Made.
Yeah. Sonny in the Black Pack, do you have another question? You didn't light up anything.
No more questions. I think.
But he does have that sting. So we want to watch Takedown.
PFAS,
Takedown with Chris Hansen.
Wow.
a group of synthetic chemicals that are used in many industrial and
There you
consumer
go.
products.
See?
I'm really good at Googling.
Are you still working with Violent J on taking some of those people down, like Davi Vanity?
You know, that's a really good question. That case is still.
How come every
floating around
time
out there.
Kyle's asked something, you go, that's a really good question? We ask things, you just answer. Kyle is the only one that's had the really
They're
good
all great questions.
Thank you.
Howie.
Because
Thank you.
Kyle does
Jackie.
a.
It's a
good
pleasure to be here.
impression.
I want to
Yeah.
go ahead, answer
No,
his
so
question.
anyway, the Davi Vanity case, it's still out there. As far as I know, it's still active. Violent J's and those guys are great guys. It's the Insane
idea.
Clown Posse.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're in that group?
I'm not in that group,
Oh,
but
okay.
so we were doing a story on this musical guy who was alleged to have been inappropriate with a number of underage fans over the years.
Michael Jackson.
Not Michael Jackson.
Oh, okay.
It was another guy.
Okay.
And so,
R. Kelly?
no, not R. Kelly. Somebody,
P. Diddy.
somebody very well known online.
Jay-Z.
Davi Vanity was his name. So,
Jay-Z's just one so far.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Guessing.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
is it-
so Insane Clown Posse does a video or releases a statement saying, we do not tolerate this in the industry. And I had them on my YouTube channel and it got a lot of attention. And they're Detroit guys, and I'm from Detroit. So we had lunch and I've gone on their podcast a few times. But they're great guys. But, you know, they have this image, you know, Insane Clown Posse with all these crazy songs. of being these nutty, violent rock guys, and they're sweethearts. I mean, they're just good guys. And they actually did a song called To Catch a Predator, which is amazing.
Wow. Well, you can't. Now it's tell them to do one called Takedown. Well,
yeah.
Sonny and the Black Pack have a new sting. Use this on the show.
Yeah,
Takedown.
I'm going to.
Sonny.
Takedown with Chris Hansen on True.
I hope Sean's recording that. Sean Reck, my partner.
We're recording it.
Yeah, well,
This
I know,
is not
but so
live.
we can lift it.
You want to lift it?
Yeah.
Go. I'll do it without talking over it. Go ahead.
Give
Sonny.
me a clean cut.
Takedown with Chris Hansen on True Blue.
That's. Can you say
yours.
watch TrueBlue.com?
Yeah, add watchtrueblue.com after that. Here, so it turned from a podcast to a recording session. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Takedown with Chris Hansen. Watch on True Blue.
.com.
WatchTrueBlue.com.
WatchTrueBlue.com.
Excuse me, my bad. What was that? Watch True Blue?
WatchTrueBlue.com.
Watch True Blue.
.com.
All right, here we go.
Takedown with Chris Hansen. Watch TrueBlue.com.
Nice.
Awesome.
Will you use it?
Yeah, I'll use it.
They would be Sonny and the Black Pack. We've been talking about bad behavior, inappropriate behavior, and how our society is kind of getting a little darker. We put together, and some of our listeners put together, a tape that teaches people proper behavior.
Good.
So this is
Sounds good.
a group from this is an assisted living center that listens to us every week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Sarah's assisted living, and they listen to us, and they put together this tape, knowing that you were going to be here today,
Oh, wonderful.
Chris. So go ahead.
My private parts, private parts, private parts. These are my private parts. No one should see them. No one should touch them. No one should feel them. No one should squeeze them. If you touch my private parts, private parts, private parts. If you touch.
Why'd you stop it?
It stopped.
Well, you get the message.
Yeah, I get the message. I think it's a good message too.
It is, and
Yeah.
you're
Words
welcome.
to live by.
I'll give you that recording of our viewers, and you
Perfect.
can play that as interstitial on TrueBlue.com.
I'm going to force the predators to listen to it.
Yeah, over and over
Before
again.
you go.
Before you
There's
go,
something you need to know.
Listen to this, and on that note, you can press play again on that, and we'll go.
Stop. Don't touch me there. This is my no-no square.
This is
Okay.